Alright, hello again. In this lecture, we're going to learn how to divide decimals. Now, dividing decimals isn't the nicest thing to do. Usually we like to divide by whole numbers into decimals. That's much easier. So let's go ahead and start off with a nice example where we have, 25 and 100th divided by 2. Now, because we're dividing by 2, 2 is on the outside, and we're dividing into 25 and 100th. When we divide, we've seen a little bit of this when we convert fraction to decimals. We're going to line up the decimal point. And now we'll pretend that decimal point basically isn't even there and divide by usual means. So we go, what times 2 gets us close to 2? And we'd say 1. Just make sure you line them up nicely, okay? If you have messy handwriting, maybe you want to get grid paper. 2 times 1 is 2. Subtract, we got 0. And bring down the next digit. And you keep on going until you have a remainder of 0. And we go 2 times what gets us close to 5? Well, 2, that's 4. Subtract, we got 1. Bring down the 0. Now we go 2 times 5 is the closest we'll get to 10. And I'm going to extend my page. Hopefully maybe we'll see it. Okay. 10 minus 10 is 0. Bring down the next digit. Now you can't just stop because you hit a 0. You have to make sure you bring down all significant digits, so things other than 0. This 0 became significant because it squished between 2 digits other than 0. Now we go, what times 2 can get us 1 and nothing? You don't stop there, so you subtract. 1 minus nothing is 1. And now we're going to fling in a 0 at the end, right? It doesn't matter. We can add infinite number of zeros at the end. The reason why we're doing this is so that we can have an ending, a termination. We want a terminating decimal. And 2 times 5 is the closest we'll get for 10. And I'm going to scoot my paper down a little bit. And we'll have 10. And now we have 0. There's no more digits to bring down, so we can actually stop. So our answer is 12.505. So that wasn't bad. When we divide by a whole number, we basically do the same thing we've been doing with long division, except we make sure we line up those decimal points. Now this would be a different problem if we were dividing by a decimal. So I'm going to give us very similar numbers. In fact, almost identical. We have 25 and 100th. Divided by, and let's say instead our number was 0.2. Now let me remind you real quickly of how division operates. We have a numerator divided by a denominator. We can view that as a fraction. Numerator divided by denominator. And when we see it as long division, we have denominator dividing into the numerator. Please, 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 please get used to this idea. The order is very, very important in division. Order matters. Now, because I'm dividing by a decimal, it is not pleasant to go to long division just yet. I'm going to write it as a fraction. So I have 25.01 divided by 0.2. I don't like that decimal in the denominator, so I'm going to make it a whole number. But I can't just do whatever I want. I got to keep it consistent. If I mess with the bottom part of the denominator, I got to do the same thing to the top. So I'm going to move that decimal point over 1. If I do that to the bottom, I have to do that to the top. Pretty much what you're doing is you're multiplying by 10, top and bottom here. And we're keeping it consistent. If you don't feel too comfortable with that idea, I would say you wouldn't really have to worry about it. So we're going to move the decimal point over, and we're dividing by 2. Now, we have a new number. So now let's do our long division. What's in the bottom is dividing into the number up top. And you do not have to move this decimal point over once you've done this, because you've kept it consistent. You've really multiplied by 10 on the bottom and the top. You're really keeping it the same thing. You're multiplying by 1. You didn't change it, so you don't have to mess with this decimal point. Once you've moved it over, you're fine. Line up your decimal points in the long division, and whatever answer you get up top is your answer. Don't mess with it. Leave it alone. So now we go 2 times 1 is the closest we get to 2, and you've done this before, so it's going to feel familiar. Bring down the 5. 2 times 2 is the closest we get. That's 4. Subtract. We got 1. Bring down the next digit. 2 times 5 is the closest we'll get to 10. It is 10. 0. Bring down the next digit. 2 times nothing will get us 1. So we'll subtract. Now we have the issue where we can't end there. We have to end with a remainder of 0. So we'll put another 0 at the end. We can add as many as we want. And 2 times 5 will get us 10. So our answer is 125 and 5/100. And that's it. Notice, and I'm just going to scroll back up, okay? Notice here, I was looking at the denominator. That's the one who I want to make the whole number. That's the one I have the issue with. I only moved it over once. So I only moved the top over once. I know there's 2 places up top, but I don't care. I'm only moving over the number of digits I moved over on the bottom. So let's see another question. Let's say, and we're dividing, we had 25.01 divided by 2/100. Right? It's getting dangerous now. So let me view it as a fraction first, because it's a little bit easier, especially if it's not dividing by a whole number. When I view it in the fraction format, I can see the denominator is a decimal. Don't like that. I want it to be a whole number. But this time I got to move that decimal point over twice. Since I'm moving it over twice, I have to move it over twice up top. And now what I have here is 2,501 divided by 2. And you might be thinking, what happened to that 0? Well, 0,2 is still 2. So that's what we have. Actually, no decimals. So let's go ahead and do our long division. We divide, if we're going to end up with a decimal, the decimal point's at the end, right? I'll line it up there just so I don't forget about it. It might not be important, though. Since I've already divided this number by 2 twice now, I know it's going to be important. In fact, I'm probably going to need this extra placeholder. So I'm going to sneak it in now. 2 times 1 is the closest we get. You're getting sick of this, I know. Hold on. Bring down the 5. 2 times 2 is the closest we get with 4. Subtract. We got 1. Bring down the 0. Got to extend my page again. 2 times 5 is the closest we get. 10. We got 0. Bring down the next digit. You have to. 2 times nothing will get us close. And we'll bring down this 0. Because we kind of already knew from doing it earlier. And 2 times 5 is 10. And we have no remainder, nothing more significant to bring down. So our answer is 1,250 and 5/10. And that's how we're going to divide by decimals.